speaking of which, to introduce our panelists, as I say your name, ladies, feel free to come to the stage. They are just waiting backstage right now for us to allow them on. But I'll introduce Tash first. So Tash Fanshaw is the founder of Lifestyle Space. She is a declutterer. Amazing. Oh, we made it. Excellent. Tash is a declutterer. Welcome, Tash, to the stage and to the big green lock-in. Perfect. She's been making space in homes around the country by helping people let go of unwanted things. She's been doing this since 2016, so it was fair to say that she is a seasoned professional. She firmly believes that living with less is good for our mental health as well as the planet, and has a passion for finding new homes for old things. The bit that I love the most also is helping you find ways to deal with your unwanted items without throwing them into landfill, because that's often where I find myself hoarding and holding on to things, is because I just don't know where to put them. So we'll talk to Tash in a little bit about just that. And Stephanie's joined us as well. Hi, Stephanie. Lovely to see you. And we've got a few more people joining us in the chat. We've got Beatrice, we've got Lorena, Ollie. Lovely to see all of you. Thanks so much for coming. What we're doing is we're just reading through the bios of these lovely three ladies as we start our first panel discussion on the low waste lockdown. And moving on to Emma. Hi, Emma, give us a wave. Lovely to see you. So Emma is the founder of the Earth Shop. She is a long-term vegan, mother of three, based in Essex, and she's passionate about looking after our planet. Whilst on maternity leave, she started the Earth Shop, which is an online plastic-free store. After, kind of similar to myself, she became frustrated when looking for everyday products that were both vegan and plastic-free. And I think that's something quite a lot of us, not only on the panel, but hopefully out there with all of you, can relate to, that kind of frustration of where do I get the things that I need without compromising my values. So Emma sourced those products and has them in her lovely shop, the Earth Shop. She also plants a tree for every order, isn't that right, Emma?
Yeah, we do. Through one tree planted.
How many have you planted in Australia? I remember seeing something about that.
We planted 500 so far.
500.
So for the first 3 months of the year, we planted a tree for every order in Australia. So.
Amazing. That's fantastic. Brilliant. That's, yeah, I think especially times like this makes all the difference. So that's, yeah, really, really lovely. And finally, we have Stephanie. Thanks.
Hi.
Stephanie, for joining us. I know you're very busy because you've just started a new job during lockdown, which I didn't think was possible, but you're managing it.
So I'm a sustainability manager at Kingston University, and I've been on back-to-back Zoom meetings today, but managed to make the technology work. So yeah, I work full-time as a sustainability manager, but in my spare time, if I have any spare time, I'm a sustainability influencer. I find the title influencer a bit odd, to be honest, but it came about from me just wanting to communicate my thoughts and frustrations and to motivate people to make some sustainable swaps and to document my swaps as well. So yeah, that's me.
Amazing, great. And I've actually, the first time I met you, Stephanie, I reached out because of your Instagram, because I was a follower, and I thought, wow, Stephanie really knows her stuff. I wonder if she wants to come to my first Christmas market. And you did.
Which was great. It was so good. We communicated via the WWF, and I had a great time. I've spent so much money, but I feel like it's guilt-free, isn't it? So you can't feel bad about spending lots of money at an ethical zero-waste lock-in.
Right, it's so true. Green money spent on green things, it doesn't really count, does it? And there's loads of shops. Like I said, we've got 50 brands here today, so do head over to the expo booth throughout the rest of the festival and check out those brands. And Stephanie, Tash and Emma, you'll be pleased to know a lot of them have discounts. Emma's store is on there as well, so if you want to find out a bit more about the store and go there, you can. Amazing. So Cecily, thanks for the nudge as well. If anyone has any questions or fancy chatting anything eco living, her session is also live now. Cecily's doing kind of a sofa session chat for anyone that wants a bit more interaction. But we're going to be here over the next sort of half an hour, 45 minutes to chat to these lovely ladies about their experience living low waste during lockdown. So girls, ladies, I read, I think it was yesterday, my partner sent me a link to a Guardian article that said there was somebody on there who had put all of their rubbish into a glass jar like this. I don't know if any of you saw that. But I think that's kind of the extreme end of what it means to live low waste, is to be able to fit your entire year's worth of waste into a jar. So my first question to you is, I guess, how extreme are you normally? Are you a full zero waster, or are you kind of a bit more fluid with things? I just kind of want to get a sense check for where you each individually find yourself on that scale. Stephanie, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure, I'll go first. So I strive to be that person that can fit all their waste in a jar at the end of the year. And actually, it was reading Zero Waste Home that kind of sparked my interest. Seeing that is like, wow, somebody can actually live like this. How is it possible? So I think there's certainly a place for people that do live like that. Myself personally, I take out my recycling bin every week. Well, no, every other week. And I do have a general waste bin. I don't take it out as frequently, but yeah, I do produce waste, probably more than the typical zero waster would produce. But that's because I've become, certainly over the past couple of years, just a bit kinder to myself, because I was constantly beating myself up every time I was producing a little bit of recycling or any general waste. And I thought, you know what, it's important to think about the whole life cycle impacts that you're producing. So I used to be the person that would go to the meat counter and take my Tupperware and take my chicken legs away with me and take them home. And then I went vegan, so I no longer do that, and I buy packaged tofu in plastic. So it's finding a balance, it swings and roundabouts. So yeah, if there's a scale, I'm not the jar person, but I'm not the mass producing, stick my rubbish bin out every week kind of person. Somewhere in between.
Yeah, a little bit, 60 to 70% on a bit more to the zero waster.
Yeah.
Amazing. And Tash, what would you say? Would you agree?
Yeah, I love how you've called this low waste lockdown, actually, because low waste is just as important, I think, as zero waste, in that it's more accessible for more people. I'm definitely not a kiln a jar person, but I do know who you meant. I think it was Trashes for Tosses. I can't remember her name. She did that, and she was showing us everything that she's got, and most of the things that she produced were the stickers from fruit. But I think one of the things I do is not buy as much stuff as I used to from supermarkets, and that drastically reduces the amount of plastic that you receive in the house, and just sourcing stuff more kind of sustainably from brands that mean a lot to me. Sometimes it has to be in plastic, sometimes fruit and veg lasts longer if it's in plastic, and the sad truth is that plastic does keep food for longer. So in a way it's sometimes an okay thing as long as it's reused and reusable and reused.
Another checks and balance kind of thing, isn't it? It's like, where's my strongest value? Is it buying from sustainable brands and being a vegan, or is it producing plastic? So yeah, I'm hearing kind of similarities there.
Yeah, absolutely. And just not only where you looking more about where you get the stuff from, but how you get rid of stuff. So like Stephanie was saying, just recycling properly. The food waste bin that my council uses is amazing, but I've also got a compost bin in the garden. I'm lucky enough to have that. Bokashi bin is the kind of thing I'm thinking about. But yeah, just being more aware of where stuff comes from and where it goes.
And Emma, what about you? Where do you sit on the scale?
So I'm very similar. I would not say I can fit all of my plastic waste in a jar, definitely not. But I mean, I have 3 kids, and being a vegan as well, I find a lot of the vegan food that I buy, a lot of it will come in plastic, which is a frustrating thing that I find. And also with children, I started my shop because I wanted to cut down on plastic, but there still is plastic in my house, and we still do have plastic waste. So yeah, but I think we're just more conscious of it. And whenever I'm out and about and I'm shopping, I will try and always choose the more sustainable option. If there is something not in plastic, I will go for that. You know, and I take my bags and things like that with me. So I will try as hard as I can, but I'm not 100% zero waste. I'm lucky that the area I live in, our bins are, they collect, like the recycling bins, they pretty much collect most things in the recycling bin, so we can put a lot into there. Although I don't really like to just put it all in the recycling bin, I'll try and reuse things. So lockdown has actually been quite useful for kids' arts and crafts and things like that. That's come in handy, reusing all the recycling items. Yeah, so I think it's just being conscious of it and trying to do the best that you can. That's all you can do, really, isn't it? And not to beat yourself up if you're not 100% zero waste. So I don't think many people are.
No, that's true. And I feel like there's and I will say there's like a meme or something going on Instagram where it says we need everyone doing zero waste imperfectly rather than a handful of people doing it correctly. And I definitely align, and as it sounds like all of us do, to that sentiment.
I'm a huge believer of that. If 1 million people do something, then it's probably doing better for the planet than if 3 of us are doing everything.
I don't know about anyone else, but I had a bit of a revelation when I realised that people that have the glass jars, it's not just everything they've ever produced ever in that year. It's just the stuff that isn't recyclable. When I had that realization, I was like, oh, hang on a minute. So I can buy things in tins, and that's not bad because aluminium can be indefinitely recycled. Obviously, plastic can't, but there are some items that actually it is okay if they can be indefinitely recycled. We shouldn't be beating ourselves up about it. So, yeah, I don't know if anyone else had that thought when they just assumed this little jar. Like, how the hell do you get that all in one jar? But yeah, it's just the stuff that would have otherwise been thrown in the general waste.
There's a really important distinction to make, and I think again it kind of lends itself to that anxiety over if I can't do it perfectly, then I may as well not bother. But actually, even these people who are doing it incredibly well are still relying on the traditional systems, the recycling systems. But I know Christina will kill me if I don't say that, plastic, whether or not it is being recycled, hint it's not. If you are interested about that story, definitely listen to the story of Plastic, that film. I don't know if you ladies have seen it, but it's going to be playing from 6 o'clock.
Yeah, can't wait to, if not today, probably Saturday, can't wait.
Really interesting, yeah, definitely. I would highly recommend it for sure. But Emma, you mentioned something about kind of lockdown having changed things for you a little bit, in the sense that the recycling that you would normally save is good for kids. You do a lot of activities now. Like, what else for you has changed drastically because of the lockdown, and what have you done to adapt to it?
So I think for me, the main thing is, I have a plastic-free shop, so I have like an endless supply of products that I can use, and I run it from my house at the moment. So I've really got no excuse not to, have all the plastic-free items and, live that life.
Is that a thing?
Pardon?
But can you use your own stock? Is that allowed?
No, you probably shouldn't, but yeah, I can keep buying it for myself. So yeah, I when it comes to like the basics of level of plastic-free stuff, I pretty much have everything. But I think the main thing for me in that lockdown has changed me is that I'm a buyer rather than a DIYer, and so I will buy a plastic-free deodorant and shampoo bar and things like that. I've never really ventured into making anything myself, and I often watch things and see people that are the DIYers that make their own products and think I will do that one day, but never have had the time to try, and just haven't got around to it. And through lockdown, having just a little bit more time on my hands at home, I've been able to sort of experiment with some DIY things, which has been first time for me. So that's definitely a way that I've changed. So just things like oven cleaner. I'm pretty much, there's 4 ingredients that you can pretty much use to do most things like cleaning wise in the house. There's the vinegar, bicarb soda, citric acid, lemon. Pretty much, if you get them, you can make most things. So I've dabbled a bit with oven cleaners and like laundry softener and things like that, and that's been going well. So becoming more of a DIY. I think that's definitely one way I've changed.
I still aspire to that. So I think probably the next couple of weeks in my lockdown, I'll be asking you some questions. But anyone who's watching, do drop your questions into the chat box, because we will have time at the end for you to ask these ladies some questions. Let us know what you think. Hi, Nicola. Hi, Nikki. This might. So anyway, so with Tash, what about you? What has significantly changed for you? How have you adapted?
Yeah, well, I really want to say, number one is I'm trying to see the positive in all of this. Sometimes it's hard, but I can't help feeling that this is good for the planet. The government are talking about, and the news are talking about the economy still, but before the economy, if the planet is doing well, the economy is doing badly. So I really hope that this kind of makes a few changes, both on personal levels around the country or around the world, and governmental levels. That'd be interesting to see. And then on a personal level, just a few things to say. So when it happened, the first thing I did was look at my finances in depth. Stacey from Pakira Money, who is going to be on a panel, I think on Saturday, she sent through a budgeting kind of thing, and I massively looked at that, looked at all of my finances. I think I'm eligible for help from the government, which is amazing because I'm self-employed. I brought down all of my expenses as low as I could go. I still got my odd box subscription. Yeah, really cancelled as many things as I can, and communicating with all my clients, friends, family, just making sure everyone's okay, seeing what can happen, what changes people are making. I was feeling really smug at the beginning because I'd ordered my Who Gives a Crap toilet paper 2 weeks, I think, before lockdown was announced, and so I got 48 rolls in the cupboard. So yeah, that was a big win. And actually, someone last year came to stay, and she was laughing at me for all of the toilet paper. But the fact that you can only buy that in bulk, and it's better for the planet than some of the kind of household names, made me feel really happy. A massive change. I mean, I'd like to say I didn't use supermarkets very much before, but I've definitely don't want to go to supermarkets at the moment, mainly because of the queues and just the stress of having to follow all the crazy rules. Every single supermarket I've walked past, or dare I say it, driven past, I've got huge queues outside. So I've just looked at alternative ways. I'm back in London now for various reasons, but I was in Wiltshire, and there was the local baker was doing deliveries to the next door village, and so I ordered that. It was a really roundabout way of getting bread, but that was fun. I ordered fruit and veg that delivered, and I had the option of asking them to not put so much plastic in. I think there was one thing wrapped in plastic, so that was awesome. I've written something down here that I can't. Oh, milk. Yeah. So again, being in kind of country, there was a village next kind of nearby who did a milk service where you go into a machine in like a dispenser, and so you pay with a card and it dispenses your milk. So that was fine. And then I suppose the last thing to say is I'm going grey, and I don't know, I'm trying to embrace it. That's really hard, but not going to the hairdressers is absolutely fine. And I'm just wondering whether when all this is over, whether I can embrace the greyness or whether I'm just going to have to go back to the salon, which I know isn't a very green thing to do.
Feels luxuries. Well, I mean, it sounds like you've made a huge effort, to be fair, and I think from like my personal perspective, there are some things I felt like I have had control over. We're very lucky that we actually have a zero waste store like just 2 minutes down underneath where I live, but not everyone has that, and they're not always open, and they're very busy and all this kind of stuff. So safety in mind too. It's like, where else could I potentially get my food from?
Yeah, absolutely.
But
I do think, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I do think that supermarkets, I don't think they're on the way out, but I do hope that people are looking for other ways of not shopping at supermarkets. I mean, partly cafes and things are kind of changing their whole way of working, and so they, they're doing click and collect coffees, and then they might be selling stuff at the same time. So there's some really good small business ideas out there who've been able to kind of turn around and make changes more than some of the bigger companies.
So I don't live in an area that's got a farm shop near me. I live in Thurrock, Essex, so it's quite built up. So unfortunately, I can't go and collect, fruit and veg from a shop or anything like that, like a farm shop. But there's a company, Box Fresh, that I've learned about recently, and I'm thinking about doing an order from them for anyone who might be interested. And they seem to be quite good. They will send you a big box of fruit and veg, and it's completely plastic free. And that will be delivered to your door. So that's an option maybe for some people.
Yeah. I don't know if Oddbox delivered to you. They do deliver to quite a few London postcodes and kind of the outside of London. But yeah, that makes me feel really happy. So they rescue wonky veg from various mostly UK farms.
Oddbox will be with us tomorrow evening actually for our food.
Oh no, ours is Saturday. Yeah.
And if you did want to practice ordering something from a veg box service, we've got a dinner tomorrow night called Festival Feast, and if you wanted to join to Sustainable Chefs as they teach you how to make a vegan 2-course dinner, you can order that I think in the next 10 minutes, and it will still arrive in time for tomorrow from Love Shack, which is really fun. So if you ladies fancy that, or anyone who's watching, that's definitely something to do. But Stephanie, I want to ask you, I mean, you're quite embedded in sustainability right now. You've just got this new job that you're working in, and you're also an influencer. Like, how have you found the sentiment from other people? Do people seem to be, on the whole, feeling quite buoyant about how they're managing their waste during lockdown, or is it kind of a needs-must situation? And what is your advice to people who kind of feel a little bit more like it's survival right now rather than sustainability?
Okay, that's some really good points. I mean, the waste sector at the moment is really interesting in the UK. You'll probably know that a number of household waste and recycling facilities have closed down at the moment to prevent the spread of coronavirus, with some reopening, which actually is timed with loads of people at the moment doing lots of DIY around their house and generating lots of good recycling waste. As a result of that, there's been a 300% increase in fly tipping across the UK countryside, reported from the Environment Agency. So on one end of the spectrum, all of us that are here today that are really interested in sustainability, you've got the other end of the spectrum of people that literally just do not care at all, and they're the people that we really need to tap into. The other thing that's happened as well is that because there's been a reduction in waste from commercial organisations, so an increase in household waste, there's a number of waste contractors that are at risk of not being able to operate going forward. And actually that's had a knock-on impact on energy as well, because there's been a reduction in construction and wood waste that's been generated. That's reduced our biomass production. So all of a sudden, where we've got this circular economy that we're striving towards, it becomes under threat because we haven't got anything in place to make us resilient to these kind of emergency shocks. Generally, the UK is going to be, I think, okay going forward, because our approach to resources is very linear. It's, extract at the source, manufacture, use, throw away. But really going forward, if we want to strive towards this circular economy, we have to think about how are we going to respond to big issues like this going forward. And in terms of the sector and how do we respond to this, there's a lot of similarities and there's a lot to be learned from COVID-19. There's actually a really interesting open letter that's gone out, and I can always send a link after the presentation to it, which a number of major CEOs have signed, from L'Oreal, Unilever, massive organisations, some of which maybe people don't like, but their CEOs are saying that we need to rebuild sustainably after COVID-19. And in addition to that, the Commission on Climate Change has sent a note to Boris Johnson as well to say if we are to come out of this sustainably, yes, we need to think about the economy, but we also need to think about the environment and people as well, because sustainability are those three pillars, it's economy, ethics and people. And if we're just focusing on the economy, then everything's going to fall by the wayside, and it's thinking about everything as a whole. It's an opportunity for us to rebuild and regrow, and we've got to be positive about that.
Wow, I feel like I just learned so much and like kind of process all of that.
And as a personal thing that I've done, that I've changed in terms of my behaviours. So in the UK, we spent £1.9 billion panic buying food. Now, I'm not one of those panic buyers. I'm not going to say that, but I am going to the supermarket less frequently than I was. I was one of those people that I'd probably go to the supermarket once every couple of days. I would just buy food, I don't know if anyone else is like this, but to reduce my waste and food waste and to prevent food going off, I just kind of buy what I need as and when. I'm in a city, I'm near a supermarket. It's easy for me to do that. But because all of a sudden I'm now shopping once a week, I'm thinking, oh God, I've got all this veg. Like, how do I keep it fresh? Because usually I would just eat it all. And I brought a prop with me. I don't know if anyone has seen this on my Instagram page, but I've started regrowing. I've been regrowing my spring onions, and these are like 3 weeks old. And this is the growth that's come from it. And the roots, it's just, anyway, yeah, there's a bit of a random prop, but I've been learning a lot about keeping food fresh and just doing more home cooking, really. Oh, snap! So you yours. That's the next step for mine.
This is a leek.
That's a leek.
Is it a leek?
That's a leek.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a leek. I've got celery, I've got leek, and I've got a garlic bulb as well. I'm so impressed.
Amazing. Well, cheers to that.
Yeah. I've just planted some tomatoes, which is the first vegetable I planted in the garden. I've got a few herbs, which is a start, and now we're going on to veg. So slowly it will go from a pretty flowery garden, from a complete dump to a pretty flowery garden to hopefully soon growing more of my own stuff.
Amazing. Then you can set up your own veg food box and we're away.
Yeah, I'm scared of worms though, so I know they're amazing for the planet. I know that soil. I'm reading the book Wilding at the moment, written by Isabella. Amazing. And and I know that worms are amazing for the soil, and that soil is going to save everything. But at the moment I'm scared of worms.
Different.
I think this is great that everyone's like connecting back with plants and nature a bit more. Across it seems like it's not just, same in my house. We've planted things with the kids, and we've planted wildflowers in the garden. We're trying to encourage insects. There's a thing, I don't know if you've heard of it, No Mow May.
Oh, yeah.
Telling people not to mow their lawns for the whole of May to help the dandelions and all, for the insects and the bees and everything. They've got.
I think. I only discovered No Mow May a few days ago, but my sister mentioned it to my mum, and my mum was like, okay, I'll deal with you. She's got kind of 3 areas of grass that she mows, and she's like, okay, as long as I can do that, then I'll leave the other 2. So it's like amazing. But also, you were saying really nice that everyone's connecting back with nature, and the other thing is quite a few adults have more time at home and more free time to spend with their kids, and going through the garden and being a bit more kind of back to nature with their kids as well. I've seen a lot of that. That's really exciting. Cooking, growing, that kind of stuff.
It's almost like there's like this underground swell of curiosity about where stuff comes from, really. Does my tomato come in a package from Sainsbury's? No, it really doesn't. Can I potentially grow this myself? Maybe you should. Because we're seeing that the supply chain, and this is kind of leading what you were saying, Stephanie, it's very linear right now. There's not a lot of protection for the individual that lives, say, right in inner city London. We really do rely heavily on the system. So having this opportunity to think about, how do I diversify my sources? How can I maintain kind of my values throughout doing that? I think is the real question that some of us at least have a bit more time for now as well. I know, Stephanie, you're really busy, and I'm sure you are too with your shop and Tash, to be fair. But for those of us that have a little bit more time, maybe that's an opportunity now to kind of double down and think about what we could be doing differently, perhaps. And what would your recommendation be to people if they were sitting at home thinking, I feel inspired now to think about ways that I can reduce my waste. Like, what do you think are the low-hanging fruit right now in lockdown that people can kind of get excited to make progress on?
Well, I think what I always just like to really plan and research things before I start. And I think now's a great time, like you said, a lot of people are at home, got a bit more time, they can do some research. Everything's out there. It's so easy to look at podcasts and listen to podcasts and look at blogs and, you know, all the stuff on the internet. You can access to most things on the internet and just find out research and then just really like plan. So I would just start small. If it's someone who's a first timer and hasn't really, you know, venturing into the plastic-free sustainable world, I would maybe just start with something small, like choose one area of your house, or like your bathroom, or your kitchen, or your makeup bag, and just look at that and think the things you can swap, just be a bit more sustainable, eco-friendly, and then just make a few swaps. And from that, you will just naturally do little steps. Don't be daunted and be like, oh, there's too much stuff, I've got to buy all new things. Use what you have as well. Like, that's the other thing. So you don't have to go out and buy all the, you know, amazing bamboo organic wipes from my shop, for example, or, you know, you can just cut up a t-shirt at home and use that as facial wipes, or, you know, use a bit of muslin or towel, cut that up and use it. So use what you have at home, and then you're not creating waste. You're reusing things as well, and I think that's the key. Just experiment. You're at home, so you've got time to look around and think about what you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say that. Definitely start small. Start by scheduling 30 minutes. And you said just have a look at what you've got in your bathroom. So one of the things I'm going to do in the decluttering workshop after this at 5:30 is get people to do a plastic audit of their bathroom. To just not necessarily change anything, just go into the bathroom and just count up how many things that are in plastic in the bathroom. And importantly, finish up stuff before you go and buy new stuff. So yeah, the bamboo wipes that you're going to go and buy from Emma's store after later, it's brilliant, do that, but before you do that, finish up the wipes that you've got. So don't end up chucking away the bad wipes. One of the things that I declutter a lot of is half-used beauty products, half-used food. Like, finish it up. Why not? Like, why did you not finish that shampoo before you bought another one? Oh, I got bored of it. I didn't like it. It's like, you know, it's not going to kill you to finish up a bottle. And Andy Chappell, you've just said buy and eat seasonal produce. Absolutely. One of the things I love about the veg box delivery is that I know more about what's in season right now. And if anything, if you do nothing else, then just look for one different shop rather than the supermarket for one or two items that you would usually buy from the supermarket, whether that's online with a delivery. So, I mean, perfect, you don't have to go out. However, but just buy one or two things, if not more, from something that isn't a supermarket.
Stephanie, what about you?
I would say just give yourself time. So when I started my Instagram page, I started something called Sustainable Swap Sunday, where every Sunday I would try to find something that week that I had done that was a sustainable change. And at the beginning there were loads of things to do, and with time it has kind of got harder because I've done this over quite a few years now. But there's going to be some things that you can change in your lifestyle that other people won't be able to. So for example, my previous workplace, I drove a car to get there, and that's something that I always felt guilty about. One of the key reasons for me taking this new job is because I was able to get public transport there. So that's been, 4 years in the running, but that's something that I'm really proud of, and I factored that into my decision making with my career. Other things like, if you're swapping shampoos, it will work really well for one person. So just because somebody on Instagram has, said, oh, buy this shampoo, it's amazing, always remember that that's what works for them. Everyone's body, everyone's hair type, everyone's routine and schedule is completely different. So just make it about your personal journey and what you feel you can change, because then it is going to be more sustainable for you going forward, because you're more likely to keep it up. And that's something that I've done in all kind of approaches with sustainable swaps, with my diet. I didn't go vegan overnight. It's something that's taken quite a long time, but you get there eventually and you find your happy balance.
I love that, kind of all circling back round to balance. And we're already making a lot of changes right now. We're not driving our cars. We're not going on holiday. We are prioritizing more local supply chains, for example. We are all doing quite a lot at the moment without actually doing anything, to be fair. So I wonder what your advice would be to people who don't perhaps realize what they are doing that's very impactful in other ways, and focusing kind of on the small plastic bits and the frustration over having to buy food, for example. And what do you think are really good habits that people can keep from this time as we sort of hopefully transition back into a greener new normal, but certainly into a new normal regardless? So what would your advice be to people, both if they're feeling frustrated about their experience, and also kind of what do you think they could hang on to that's really positive from this time?
I can open it up. So I saw something that I initially thought was a really good idea and then quickly changed my mind on it. So I saw somebody had a little jam jar, and every time they missed something like going out for a coffee, they'd write it down and put it in the jam jar. So as soon as lockdown was lifted, everyone can go out for coffees and buy fast fashion online and all this stuff that you've missed. And then I thought, no, like that's not a good idea. Why don't you reverse it and make a little jar of all the things that you don't miss? I mean, I don't know about anyone else, but I thought I was going to miss my coffees out that I have all the time. I'm sad I don't use my reusable mug anymore, but I don't really, yeah, I could use it at home. I don't really miss that. You know, I was meant to be going away on holiday. I had a great staycation at home, and there's little things that I think actually we've all taken for granted, which we should try our best to try and keep it up after the whole lockdown is lifted, because it could be a whole new way of living for us. So yeah, maybe if you want to kind of write down and whatever way you want to do that, whether that's like a little jar where you write down all the favorite things that you've done since lockdown and you want to keep them up, like even if it's like doing a jigsaw. I mean, I know we're diverting, that's more like well-being, but all these little things that we just never found the time to do, and all of a sudden we have got the time, we should be making the time for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, on that note, use what you have. So I loved your comment about the jigsaw. I know that's changing things, but my mum had a jigsaw and it was just sitting there, and so I just opened it up and did it, and it was just using something that I've got. It probably took me an hour and a half or 2 hours to do over a few days, but just use what you have a look at what you've got in the home. Use this time to see what you've got maybe stored away. Certainly not a time to take things to the charity shops or to the waste recycling centres, partly because some of them are closed. So it's definitely anything you decide to let go of, put away, whether it's in the basement or the loft or even just a room you don't use, or if you've got a tiny flat then just in the corner, and wait until you can get rid of things, but just take this time to have a look at what you've got and see if you can revisit a hobby or start a new hobby, something that you have. I know I asked my mum one year for wool and knitting needles. It must be 12 years ago, and I knitted the scarf that was the kind of thing. It's so simple, but I never cast off because I don't know how. So that's one thing that I'll be visiting, is just visiting stuff that you've got. And
amazing. I think we've lost your camera, by the way, Tash. I don't know if it's just me.
I can see you.
But we can still hear you fine. That's absolutely fine. And Emma, I would ask you the same, but I'm conscious on time, and I think we've had a couple of questions.
Sure.
One is directed, I think, at Stephanie, but I don't know, Emma, if we should answer Joey's first, which is thoughts on, flying or offsetting flying. I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on that at all.
I suppose just to say that flying, it's part of our lives now. Just if you have the option to, when you're looking at a holiday next year after, whenever, just look at more local places you can go. You can have fun, you can have adventures, you can see amazing things in Wales, just outside London, depending on where you are. You can have, those kind of fun experiences more locally. So it's not kind of a case of not flying, but maybe again, it's a case of all of us doing something, not 3 people doing everything. So just, if you used to take 3 flights a year, then take 1. If you used to take 20 flights a year, cut that back by half or more if you can.
Definitely. I think like in everything in moderation. So the thing that annoys me most about flying is not necessarily someone going on a holiday, once a year or something, but when it's like a trip for one night to, for a meeting, like a business meeting, and people go, there's no need to do that anymore. We found through lockdown that things like Zoom and this platform, Hopin, there's great ways of connecting with people. You don't necessarily have to always be face to face with people anymore. And hopefully that will be a bit more of an eye opener now for people. And this will be one of the positives that comes out of this situation, that going forward there won't be so many people, business people, flying around the planet just for short trips for business meetings that can be done just like this, so that type of thing hopefully will
sometimes the Zoom meetings and chats that I have with friends are more kind of intense in a way, because you have to kind of fill that small amount of time compared to the 3 hours you might spend in the pub. And the other thing is you can see yourself, so a lot of people are coming a lot more self-aware. I don't know if that's kind of low waste necessarily.
Gosh, that's me most of the time.
Every time I'm Zoom, there's all this going on. But your earrings are amazing, by the way. I'm definitely going to check that.
It's a festival. Amazing. Well, Stephanie, did you want to add anything onto that point as well?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the 2 kind of questions are quite linked in. So what did I do with all of my annual leave? I had 5 days annual leave. So I was actually meant to be going to Miami, which I always feel really awkward about sharing. I'm always transparent with my followers, but I always feel guilty whenever I talk about getting on a plane. And when I get on a plane, it really kills me. So I do offset my emissions because I feel that it's better than not. It's not the only, solution. Obviously, we need to reduce, but we can use offsetting as a means to bring down and make sure that we've got a net carbon as opposed to 0 carbon. So yeah, my staycation was great. I had 5 days at home, which I thought were just going to be terrible and really boring. What I did was I made a list of all the things that I wanted to do. It was a mix of things just like reading a book, chilling out, doing a bit of self-care. I also had a DIY project on there as well, and I came across a really cool organisation called Community Repaint. I don't know if anyone's heard of it, but they basically collect lots of pots of unused sort of surplus paint, and there's lots of distribution centres around the UK. Now, obviously, I couldn't go to them because they were closed down because of COVID-19, but I just spent a bit of time kind of researching sustainable DIY. I ended up using paint that I already had in my garage. And anything left over, once Community Repaint opens, I'll be giving it back. So yeah, I think offsetting has its place. We are going to have to offset. There's a report that's come out that's shown if we want to achieve net zero, it's actually not going to be possible to do that just from changing different energy sources and reducing operations. We've emitted so much carbon dioxide and greenhouse gases now. To achieve net zero, we will have to offset. So we can't use it to justify bad behaviour, but it does have its place. And yeah, enjoy your annual leave, whoever it was that asked that. You'll have a great time and it'll go very quickly.
Brilliant. Amazing. And just a few final kind of comments from me. Melanie, if you are interested, I think it was you that was on talking about the holiday. We have got a company here called the Little Surprises Company, where you can buy a virtual gift for yourself or your partner. So you can actually send them a surprise, and it could be something like reflexology, it could be a comedy night, it could be yoga session. We've had a few of them here, and that's a really fabulous way to kind of treat yourself without going anywhere. We also did like a date night dinner for us, where I kind of prepared something for my partner, invited him with a little letter, and we had to dress up. I know that something that people are doing. Or Secret Cinema also do like really fun screen viewings on Friday. Or you can come to this, depending on when your thing is. You know, this weekend we've got 3 days of full content there. So that's always an idea. If anyone else has any ideas, do drop them in the chat. Because I know with lockdown as inspiration around how to stay zero waste, but how to stay sane as well. So any thoughts and comments, welcome for sure.
On that note, my cousin started a family quiz night on Zoom, and so there's maybe 12. There's one WhatsApp member per household. There's maybe 12 or 13 households, all families, so cousins, aunts, uncles. My sister in one place in England and my brother somewhere else, and whoever wins the quiz that night has to prepare the next quiz, and it's almost brought us all together as a family, way more than we've kind of been together before. So we have been on holidays very occasionally, all of us, but meeting every Friday night with the whole family is incredible. Amazing. So being able to be in touch with people far away, but without traveling, it's possible now.
Sure. And yeah, if you are interested in learning a little bit more about what's we've just been talking about in terms of carbon emissions, offsetting, and also sequestering, which I think is kind of the process of pulling carbon out of the atmosphere, as Stephanie was saying, we do actually have a presentation on Saturday evening at 6:30 called Project Drawdown by Alex from Zero Waste Mindset, and that's going to be a fantastic introduction into what we're doing to sequester carbon. So Joey, if you are interested in talking to your company about other ways that they can offset rather than just planting trees, for example, they could potentially invest in some Project Drawdown initiatives, which are mind-blowing. So don't miss that. And one final thing, we've got a few comments also about the quiz. We do have a quiz here at the festival on Saturday evenings. So after Project Drawdown, if you wanted to get involved in a sustainability related London pub quiz, then do join us at 7:30 on Saturday. And the people that run that are called Unseen Tours. And what Unseen Tours do is they help homeless people get into work by training them to do tours around London. Obviously that is off the cards at the moment simply because of lockdown, but we will potentially be supporting them with the funds that we raise from this event. They're one of the charity partners that we're considering donating to. We'd love to get your thoughts on that as well, but do come back on Saturday, check them out, and if you do want to make a private donation to them or whatever to support them, then you're more than welcome to do that. But yeah, quiz on Saturday night, Drawdown Saturday night. Oh God, so much to do, and I don't get to see any of it. You guys are very lucky. Anyway, well, I just want to extend my greatest gratitude to all of you for coming and being part of this. Do any of you have any final parting thoughts or comments before I escort you off stage, I should say?
I would just say to people, just remember that everybody's on a journey. So don't be, feel like it's all a bit too daunting or too much and be overwhelmed by it. Everybody's on a journey. We all have to start somewhere. And, I was vegetarian for years and years before I became a vegan, and I've got a plastic-free shop and I'm still not 100% plastic-free. But as long as we're all, on that journey, making little steps, progressing, and I would say also encourage others to do it. Bring people along on the journey with you. Tell your friends about it. Tell your family about it, because ultimately that's what we need to do. We need lots of people, on this journey with us if we're going to really save the planet. So,
yeah, and thank you so much, Mel. I cannot wait to explore more of this amazing online event. There's so many cool things happening.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's great to meet everyone, and I'm certainly going to be sticking around for the rest of the weekend. It's my weekend sorted. This is great.
Easy.
We need this every weekend.
Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I can manage that.
Press the button.
And well done to you for sorting all of this out. Kudos to that, because it's a whole new way of working with technology, and you grab the ball by the horns and you run with it. It's gone really well.
It's amazing. Well done.
No, thank you all for being part of it. As with any event, it isn't an event without people. And I do appreciate you all giving your Thursday afternoons up to come and talk to us. Wave goodbye to them for now. And thank you all very much again for coming.